Blake, have you ever been to California?
I've survived LA's crazy traffic once, but the danger is worth it to be close to the stars. I even stumbled upon the Rogue One premiere.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech director out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who will never understand how 1,000 people a day don't perish on the insane LA streets. And I'm here with my boss, a man who could navigate any street with ease, Toby Walters.
I do believe I could navigate any street with ease. I've definitely driven around LA many times growing up in San Diego.
And you didn't die.
I didn't die. So stumbling into the Rogue One premiere, I assume you were just like on the streets?
Straight up, I stumbled upon it on the streets, but like it was very open. You just could walk around. There was Star Wars spaceships just sitting on the road. I mean, I felt like I had, transported to a different land. It was incredible.
Did you see any of the actors?
No, I didn't see any of those stars. That was tough. But hey, just seeing an X-Wing was pretty dope.
Okay, so we're going to play Name That Celebrity today because I had a trip to California in 2012 when I was still doing the worship band thing. And it was like all the stars aligned in the sense that I saw 3 mega celebrities in this trip, just fully random.
This always happens to you. You see celebrities in threes.
That's how things work, in threes. Baptist sermons, celebrity
3 bullet
sightings.
points.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you some clues about the celebrities that I saw, and then you're going to see if you can guess them.
Why do I have the feeling these are all going to be like 60-year-old musicians that I don't know the names of?
These are all current people that you should absolutely recognize.
Which will make it worse when I don't. All right, here we go.
Okay, so the first one, my cousin actually works for Apple. He's one of their programmers, so he works at their circular headquarters. And the band and I decided, let's stop by the headquarters and see if my cousin will let us in.
Oh, did you see Tim Cook?
No. And I guess this was after Steve Jobs had passed away.
Okay.
But you can't get into the Apple headquarters. You can get to the front door and then they'll say do you have a pass? I'm like, no, but my cousin works here. And they're like, yeah, nope, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure they've heard that before, Toby.
So we tried and failed. But as we were walking away, someone walked out with a security detail and everybody turned and I was like, oh my gosh, that's that person. And so I went up and just said that person's name and said, hey, can I get a photo? And they were like, sure. So this person is a famous actor and comedian. He was on Saturday Night Live for 7 years.
Oh, Bill Hader?
Nope. He has starred in multiple movies that he also wrote.
Will Smith? Not Will Smith. Oh my gosh, Will Ferrell.
No. And he was the star of a Fox and NBC television sitcom.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love SNL, love comedians, but I'm not thinking of it.
His sitcom was about a police station in Brooklyn.
Oh, Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg.
You love Andy Samberg.
I do. And my wife actually totally has a crush on him.
Oh, I don't know that we were going to say that publicly, but all right.
I'm willing to say it. She likes the funny guys, which worked out well for me.
Oh, well, debatable.
Okay, so the next day, we were actually connecting with Menlo Park Presbyterian Church up there. It's probably the biggest church in the Bay Area. And I just had a mutual friend, and so one of their worship guys said, yeah, come on over. We'll show you the campus, and then love to take you guys out to get a burger or something. So after the tour, we went to kind of this local burger joint. He said, this is not the chain restaurant. This is the place that all the locals come. So we're like, great, let's do it. So as we walk in, we walk by another ridiculously famous person that had picked up their to-go order and walked out.
I didn't know I was in town that day.
I wouldn't say you're ridiculously famous, just mildly so.
Ridiculous gets attached to me often.
So this person is a very well-known actor. They were nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor in 2010. They have starred in Spider-Man.
Oh, Emma Stone.
Planet of the Apes.
Oh my gosh.
Pineapple Express.
Wait, James Franco.
James Franco.
Okay. That's
so walked
cool.
right by James Franco. Didn't say anything this time. It was like a quick like double take. Like, is that James Franco?
He's
Yes,
totally
it
the
was.
loose cannon kind of type. Like you could have got a really funny interaction if he was feeling social that day. You also probably could have got a bit of a bite. So
A bit. So we just sort of let him go. And then we got our burgers. We're having dinner for like 45 minutes. We're just chatting with this worship guy from Menlo Park. And I'm looking at my drummer across the table. And then my eyes refocus to somebody like 15 feet behind him at another table. And I just cock my head and I'm like, is that? And everybody turns and they're like, oh yeah, they've been here for the last hour having dinner. I'm like, really? So this person is a famous athlete.
Shaq.
No, this person played 20 years in his sport.
Michael Jordan?
He has 3 championships in his sport.
Tiger Woods.
The sport is the NFL.
Oh my gosh, that's the only one I love the most. It wouldn't be Tom Brady in California.
Now, it was not Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is from the Bay Area.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
That's weird. That's right. Because he wanted to be a 49er. That's right.
This person played in the Bay Area.
Oh, is it Joe Montana?
This person caught Joe Montana passes
Oh gosh.
more than anybody in history.
I'm a huge fantasy football nut, so like I know tons about the past 5 years and going forward, but I don't know who this is.
Really?
It's a wide receiver,
The
but
most prolific wide receiver in NFL history.
Steve Young?
Steve Young was the quarterback, dude.
See, I'm just going off of old names. I don't remember.
It's Jerry Rice.
There we go.
Okay. Maybe he's just before your time, and that's the problem. Even though you're a huge NFL fan.
I am very firm. Well, and I'm also a huge movie critic, and I know all the movies from 2014 up. Like I'm a man of my time. I don't know all the history of the topics. There's too much to know. I mean, I got to work at some point.
All right, I get it. So you got 2 out of 3, I guess. Now, I did have another celebrity sighting, at least I thought, recently.
Oh, totally.
And so I'm excited to engage with this story with this celebrity, and we'll find out if it's actually true or not.
You're going to creep him out right at the start, aren't we?
100%.
Okay, well, we are sitting here with a mix engineer who regularly works with Elevation Worship, Lauren Daigle, and many, many, many more churches. Cory Edwards, welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
All right, Toby. Do you want to do this story now, or do you want to do it
let's-
after we introduce him with his lies?
No, I'll just drop it now.
Okay.
Great.
So you and I are Facebook friends, which means a whole lot. It means obviously we go way back and we have close personal connections and we're, best buds in real life. But I was at the gym in Franklin and I knew that you lived in the area. And I kept seeing this guy at the gym and I'm like, I think that's Cory Edwards. I don't know if you work out at the gym, Lifetime Fitness.
I don't.
Okay, then you've obviously already debunked my myth. So I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, this looks just like Cory Edwards. So I'm sitting in the cafe and he comes in and he sits at a table just 10 feet from me. And I just pull up Facebook because I'm like, I got to compare pictures with this guy.
Yeah.
And it's still a little tough to tell, but I'm like, that looks just like him. And then his wife comes and sits across from him. And in one of your profile pictures, like you got a family photo.
Yeah.
And then their young daughter comes, and you have a young daughter?
I do, yeah.
And I'm looking at him and the family, and I'm like, okay, that seals it. Like, all 3 look like him and his family. So I go over, and I just tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, is your name Cory? He's like, nope. My name's Jeremy. And I'm like, oh, man, sorry. And so I walk back to my table and I'm like, I got to show this guy. So I show him the profile picture and I
Yeah.
show his wife and they're like, that's crazy. And his wife looked at the picture and said, we take family pictures at that same park.
That's amazing.
So-
I kind of want to know what these people look like.
I know. I'll have to find him at the gym next time.
Cory, I think your multiversal variant was in the gym that day or in the cafe.
I wish that myself could be at Lifetime Fitness.
What if like both families were at the park at the same time taking photos?
Just
Be
on
imagine.
opposite sides.
Just mix and match. Like
Yeah,
if your
yeah.
wife was mad at you that day, she
Yeah.
could be like, all right, stand-in husband, let's go.
Well, really, the common through line here is the photographer. The photographer must love that location, and she brings all of her clients there.
That was us. We love that park. We go all the time and we walk there a lot. And so maybe one day we'll run into this Jeremy and his family.
Yeah. but we won't say it on the podcast in case all of your fans just start stalking you at this park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gracious. Okay,
man.
so Cory, thank you for enduring that. I'd like to bring you in now on our more formal segment on 5 Truths and a Lie.
You consider this formal?
Well, as formal as we ever get.
Okay.
How confident are you're going to fool us? Because we've been on a cold streak recently.
I think I'm pretty confident.
Oh my gosh, everyone comes in confident.
I think, I won't lie, I had to ask my wife how this segment works, and she helped me with this. So
It's amazing how many of our guests say that their wife had to help them figure out a lie.
yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't that why we get married, to find someone that can know us better than we know ourselves?
I'm not afraid to admit, in our marriage, I would consider myself the liar. My wife is way better a person than I am.
Oh, well, I didn't even mean the liar. I just meant probably you needed some good. What am I not remembering from her?
Well, so we met in California through Jesus Culture at a conference. And she worked at Disneyland.
Well, you're not giving away any information yet, are you? Because we haven't guessed your lie yet.
Oh, how does that? So, okay.
Sorry.
Blake's going to read them.
Like I said, very formal segment. So,
So hold your information until we guess the lie.
I think we just got an answer eliminated though, so this is good. So I bet we're gonna win this now.
So I don't say anything
You don't.
from this list.
Well,
Until we
lock in the lie.
until we
Got
guess
it.
it.
Okay, so number one, I have my bachelor's degree in digital marketing. Based on his website and it looking nice, I'm gonna say that's probably true.
Don't you have a bachelor's degree in marketing?
Yes, but you never asked for it when I interviewed, so I could have been lying.
He looks so much more marketable than you.
Oh yeah, the gold chain, the tattoos.
The tattoos.
I definitely think I'm going to mess this game up. So I'm just going to let you do your thing.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to sit here and watch.
Number two, I'm married to a Disney princess. Obviously, that one's true from what he just said.
Well, it says a Disneyland princess.
Disneyland princess, same thing. Number three, I know how to play drums, bass guitar, keys, and the ukulele.
I mean, I could say that. I wouldn't put well.
This feels like it's going to be the lie because just one of those instruments could be off. I went on my first tour at age 16 and made $60 a day.
Maybe that's a lie. Maybe it was like $20 a day. It was so bad.
Yeah, I'm currently making $60 a month at church gear, so I'm kind of wondering.
And I think you're overpaid.
Yeah,
you don't have any tattoos.
I don't. Well, not that you know of. Number five, I started out as a lighting designer. And number six, and this one is just the one that's going to throw us, I eat raw liver for breakfast.
And eat is a present term.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm already ready to throw out basically all of these and zero in on the liver or all the instruments.
Eating raw liver for breakfast is the most disgusting thing I've heard in quite some time. So if that's true, I feel like we should just cut this interview now.
It's so specific. That's what he should have done to us when we were stalking him. It's so clear to me that's real because it's so random. Do you want to split the difference? I'm going to take the instruments.
I'm going to take the liver.
All right.
So now do I reveal?
We're locked in, Cory.
So I reveal the lie. The lie is that I don't have my bachelor's degree in marketing. Oh, man. Well, I actually don't have any degree at all.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Join the club of Tobes.
I actually have an AA. I don't know if I've ever said that on the podcast. I don't know if I should be proud of that, but I do have a degree. It's an AA.
An associate's.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I am an associate.
I've got nothing.
Great.
I just started working as soon as possible.
Blake outranks both of us.
Well,
you're
by
definitely smarter than both of us.
College degrees are the dumbest thing I've ever seen. This podcast has taught me that because I mean, so many of our guests are just like, yeah, I did college for a semester, and then I was offered, do you want to keep paying money for college or make a ton of money, on the road? And it was like, obviously, I'm gonna go to the road.
Yeah.
So, okay, you eat raw liver for breakfast?
Yes. Yeah. And when I say eat raw liver, it's a very small amount, but it is still raw liver.
Why?
My wife and I do this. It's kind of like carnivore diet, like ancestral living diet. So we do a lot of like supplements that are like nose to tail cow. So we don't just do like ribeyes and fillets and stuff. We try and eat some of the other parts of the cow. So we do supplements, which are easy to take, but we're kind of easing our way into it we take like a pinch, a small little thing of liver and eat it. It's very good for you. And I feel amazing. So,
Wow.
yeah, there's lots of good things in there.
Do we just start eating raw liver every day now, Toby?
I mean, I do smoothies for breakfast every morning.
Put a little liver in there.
I wonder if I can put some liver in there.
Yeah, you could do there's protein powders and stuff. But I will say, I don't enjoy eating the raw liver. It's not delicious.
Does your wife?
Nope.
Okay.
But we are just sticking to it. We're trying to power through it.
Who was the champion of this?
There's
idea?
a guy.
No, I'm talking in your marriage.
Oh, she was.
Okay.
Yeah, she's way healthier than I am.
Was she like you're chubbing out a little bit on the road?
Chubbing out, and I sit around a lot all day, work on my computer, I mix in the studio. So
Yep.
we're taking steps, and this one actually like kind of clicked with me. We eat pretty healthy already. So I was like, we can't go on like a diet and change anything. So we're like, well, let's add in a bunch of good stuff and see what happens.
And I could introduce you to your twin brother who goes to the gym.
Yes. Yeah. When you started the story out with, I saw him at the gym. I was like, I only go like once in a while. So the chances are slim that it was actually me.
I only go once in a while too. So
I just joined a kickboxing gym, although I haven't gone at all yet. So
hey,
we'll see.
I'm glad we're all paying for these subscriptions.
Yes. Supporting the local gyms of the area.
I literally told my wife, I said, if there's ever a month, because I get 4 like classes a month, I was like, that I don't go to all 4, this gets canceled because I'm not doing the dumbness.
I said the same thing too, but I'm still paying for it. So maybe I'll get going eventually.
Toby, let's start a second business. It's a gym, has no physical location. People
But we
just
don't tell
It's a
people
subscription
It's
model.
got a landing page and okay.
We just steal pictures from like the coolest gyms on the planet.
Yes. Well, just like people steal pictures of our gear. This is true, Cory. We'll see like whole websites have been made where someone will take all of our photos and then they'll fake sell it for 10% of the price. And they don't have the gear. And so I'm just like, how
What do
we
they
stop?
do after that?
I
Do
don't
they
know.
That's amazing.
It's terrifying.
They probably got that advice from Cory Edwards, who is a fake digital marketing expert.
That was nice. So Cory, let's talk about your path to production stardom.
Yeah.
Not to pump you up too much, but we keep hearing you talked about in such hallowed tones as like a production celebrity. And how did you advance into notoriety so quickly? Or is it that fake digital marketing degree combined with your TikTok skills? I mean, what was kind of your path up into the area?
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know where all of that came from. I just it was happening, and it really was just, I just loved what I did, and it, I didn't really work for it or try for it, but I grew up in the church, and I worked at a couple churches in Vegas where I'm from, and one of those being Central out there, and it's a really big, cool church, and I was there for lots of years and kind of did the, from volunteer to contractor to part-time staff, and ended up full-time production director for the whole church. So
Dang.
I did that for a couple years, and trial by fire, you get thrown in and you just figure out how to do kind of everything and know a little bit of everything. But what I did was audio, like I mixed. That's like what I love to do. And, but I also discovered the love for being in kind of that leadership role, there at the church. So, after that, I left and I started touring, and I guess people really like pictures of consoles and shows, and, yeah. And
Is that why you're building the analog gear rack so you can take better photos?
Yeah. It's all for looks. None of it actually works. It's just for the pictures.
Just like the tattoos.
Yes.
Just like the fake stock photos. None of them actually work.
So you said in your 5 Truths and a Lie that you started as a lighting designer.
Yeah. So I grew up, and I did lighting, and my dad volunteered at church as a lighting guy, and at that time it was a 96 channel analog lighting, just 96 faders and 24 subgroups, and you did lighting that way. And but when I got to Central, I did a lot of the production designs and creative designs and program lighting there a lot. But along the way, I have a musician background, and so audio kind of felt like the right move away from lighting, but I think I've kind of stuck with both a little bit over the years.
Do you feel like there's kind of like a natural translation if your creativity and your artistry is in music, you kind of gravitate towards audio, but if your creativity and artistry is in like art, then you kind of go towards video and lighting?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't call myself the most creative, designer out there, but I think I've been in lots of real world situations, and I'm very opinionated, and I think anyone who works for me would agree with that. And so, it's been fun to kind of, I don't do the design stuff a ton still. I do that a couple times throughout the year, but it's fun to like scratch that itch and like work that muscle a little bit. And it's the product and stuff is really great.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're working on those muscles with all that raw liver, so you got to work them now. Okay, so then you go from the church world to, I mean, goodness, going from a contractor up to the tech director is pretty big. But then from there, you go to Elevation. So, I mean, tell us about mixing for Elevation. How'd you get connected to them?
Yeah.
What are you doing right now with them?
Yeah, so I toured. I left the church and I toured for a couple years as a monitor engineer, and then became a front of house engineer and production manager. So I was working with Jesus Culture for a while, worked with Ren Collective for a little bit. And then I started working with Lauren Daigle kind of during her last, her first album cycle. And we were doing a couple festival tours, and Elevation happened to be on one of them. And I met them. That tour was Lauren's last tour before she was going to take a big break, like a 2-year break. And I met all the Elevation guys, and they were looking for someone to help kind of build the touring side of what they're doing. So it worked out where I kind of started working with them, and I've been with them now 5 years, I think. So, it's been fun to build that from, we were doing churches to theaters, or I guess churches to like clubs to theaters, and now we're doing these arena tours. So it's been fun to kind of go on that journey with them. And I manage all the production, I mix front of house, and then I kind of am a part of the creative design process as well.
So I've seen, for example, I've seen U2. Blake, you know who U2 is?
Yep, they put all those songs in my iPod.
Yeah.
So I've seen them in arenas and I've seen them in stadiums. I definitely have a favorite just vibe between those two. You said from like churches to clubs all the way up to arenas. Do you have sort of a favorite size room that you enjoy mixing in?
Arenas are definitely where I feel like most at home. I think, and a lot of people listening to this, I will agree, like the smaller the room gets, the more challenging, and the more challenges you kind of have to overcome with, whether that's the room itself is really small, the PA small, you're hearing lots of stage noise, and you're just, mixing turns from creative to just sound reinforcement, and you're trying to work with that. So I love being in an arena because it's more, I approach it much more creatively than like, I have snare coming off the stage, so I have to mix around that. So it's more just I'm mixing and it's coming out through the speakers and everyone's listening. So that's I think my favorite. We did have some fun. I enjoy theaters and clubs, but I definitely prefer being in the arena.
What percentage of arenas these days are like acoustically designed properly? Because I know growing up in San Diego, our arena was awful.
Yeah. The rooms that we're playing, I would say half of them sound really good and half of them are okay. I've ran into a couple that are just awful, and you kind of bear through it and do what you can. But I have a really good team of people around me that actually fight those battles more than I fight them. Like my system engineer, Webster, he's a boss, and he's very smart and very good. He's got a great ear, and he helps address those before I even know about them. So I'm very grateful for those kind of people that help in those situations, because there are some very bad sounding rooms, just like anywhere. But arenas, when they're bad, it's very loud. Like the bad is like very apparent.
So let's talk gear for a minute. Blake's level of gear knowledge basically centers around the color of the gear.
I like shiny things. Focusrite's is the coolest brand because I got the coolest colors.
Well, you're talking about the red series.
Oh, wait a minute. They got other stuff?
They do.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the red then.
Growing up myself, like I loved the studio, and I wanted to be a mix engineer in the studio. And gear was always, it's why like starting church gear made a lot of sense to me, because I just loved gear. But then, as time went on, plugins became a much more common thing. You could just mix in the box, and it's kind of like I saw the shift from like all these racks of amazing, 1176s and LA2As to all these things are now in plugins. And now it seems like at least the conversations that you're involved in is like, yeah, and all those plugins are translating to live perfectly. But now we're thinking like, man, if I had a rack of all these old studio pieces, this would be wonderful. So talk to us about that progression. Like, how is that rack of real gear?
Yeah, so it really is, and I kind of now I'm getting asked this question a lot. I didn't want to introduce gear up until recently because the truth is I didn't quite fully understand it. So I didn't want to. The console and the plugins were working great, and I think over the last couple of years, moving into some studio stuff and really growing my understanding of a compressor and an EQ and what harmonic distortion is. I feel like I really was able to refine that knowledge to the point where I now saw the benefit or knew what I was going to gain by moving some of this stuff back into like the analog domain. And the gear that I'm traveling with is very, minimal in the scope of like when you see the A-level engineers with Bieber or whoever taking gear out. I am very passionate about like an analog mix bus, and we've A/B'd it and we've checked it. And in my opinion, I think it's better than what I was using in plugin world. And then it's a lot of like drums and bass. So like nothing for vocals, nothing for keys, nothing for guitars. So it's all the stuff that really is a more than like a 5% better improvement. It's like, this is like 25% better than I could get it in plugin world. And I made that change after I knew that I was ready to find that extra. Because before it was like, well, this is working fine. And I didn't really know that I could make it better. And now that I've refined that, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to like explore this a little bit. And honestly, it's just been fun. Like the gear's cool and I don't need it, but it's fun to have, and I'm in a place where I get to do that. So it's great.
So if you're Blake and you are a tech director at a, fairly good sized church, congratulations, Blake.
I made it. You know what? Talk your way into anything, I guess.
And you've got, let's just say a Digico, whatever, ST10. And you're thinking, Blake, obviously, that, Cory Edwards has this cool outboard gear. Is there a piece or two that if I had some budget and really wanted to, upgrade my mix 25%, is there a piece or two you would tell people like this will really change your thing? Or is it, if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to help you at all?
I would say, I always am like, and people make fun of me if I don't fully know how to use something, I like don't even want to look at it. And that goes for plugins too. Like I had people who were like, you should try this plugin, and open it up and there's 100 knobs, and I just delete it immediately because I like to know everything that's going on. So, I think you can try gear, but my recommendation as an engineer is that most of the time I actually don't think you need to. I'm taking this gear in an arena where I can hear the change very apparently, and that may not be the case. And I think if we were to go back and do church tours, I don't think I'd necessarily want to bring all that stuff with me because it's not making as big of an impact as it would in a room like what we're doing right now.
Well, speaking of those church tours, one, were you actually like doing elevation worship in a club? Like when you said that earlier, I didn't want to interrupt, to be like, wait, what does that mean? But
yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, we did kind of like 2018, early 2019, we were doing elevation worship tours, and we would be in kind of like 1,500, 2,000 seat rooms. And those were a mix of like clubs and theaters, like event centers.
Well, then this is kind of a new phenomenon of like where church bands are going out on tour and they're creating worship services on tour rather than Sunday mornings. So like, what is that like? What's some of the challenges from that? I mean, do these moments feel more spectacular just because people are kind of out of their day-to-day, they're out of the church of what's like become rhythmic, and now they're in this different environment with this band, and it's like singing praise, even though it feels like a concert. I mean, that is a really weird amalgamation of things. So, I
Yeah.
mean, what is that like, that feeling when you're there?
Yeah, it's definitely, you get the kind of cool, it's fun to be outside of the church walls, but I think one thing that I really love and appreciate about the Elevation guys is that church back home is still the most important thing, even when the band leaves to go tour. What's happening on the road doesn't matter if church is not firing on all cylinders, and they still have such a huge focus on what's going back on there. So when we go out on tour, like, yeah, we bring lights and PA and consoles and all of that, but truly, they're leading worship the same way that they lead worship back home at the church. And it's something I really admire about them and the way that they think about our quote unquote show or set or whatever. It's very much true to them, the way that they would do that.
So it still feels like a worship service.
Yeah.
It's still very much just out on the road.
Yeah, we may do a fun opener, intro. We don't do encores. It's just, I think Elevation has really incredible music, and it's just an opportunity to share that with more people than they can reach with church or some of their campuses and stuff. So it's fun to kind of get out and just share that. And that's kind of really the heart behind it, I think, is they're not there to perform. And I think if you were to ever talk to any of them, you'd never get that from them. They're just there to share the music that the Lord's been working with, through them with. So.
Okay, so I started out mixing live, and I'm talking the basics, like a 16-channel.
Mackie.
It wasn't even a Mackie. It was pre-Mackie days. And then when I got into the studio a few years later, I realized, this is so much more fun for me. Does your heart lie in one or the other?
I would say my heart definitely has lied in the live world. I have a 1-year-old now, so my heart's wanting to lie in the studio world because I get to be home more often. But I grew up doing shows, so it's fun to walk out and stand in the middle of a room and hear people scream and sing, and to feel the PA and feel the physical air around you moving. And but I had to kind of rethink my priorities in life, and I didn't want to be gone all the time. So I kind of got back into the studio world, and I love it. But it's kind of this, I love being able to kind of split my time between the two, because there's things about studio that I love, and then there's things about live that I love. And so I kind of get to check all the boxes.
Well, speaking of live or studio, Lee told us that live production guys don't care about studio world. So can you debunk Lee for us?
Lee is correct.
Oh, there it is.
Don't toot that guy's horn more than already is.
Yeah. So now we're going to have to cut that.
I know.
Okay, let's go back to those moments, though, on the road where it's a worship service. And, I mean, is there a bit more specialness feels crass? Because I'm not trying to say it's better, but it's different. Do you feel that when you're there? And then what do you attribute that to? And how do you think a church could bring that to their Sunday mornings? How could they find inspiration from these arena tours to say we could create a different kind of worship experience at the church?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of getting out of the routine of being in the same building and doing the same thing all the time, and trying to force yourself to think kind of more outside of the box, I guess. And we from the production side, we don't go much crazier than they do at church. So, and we're not trying to wow people ever. We actually are very cautious of that, of people ever feeling wowed by what we're doing on the tours. Obviously we want it to be good, and we want it to be beautiful, and we want it to sound good and be a really true representation of them. But I think there's a misconception that we take out all these fun things, and we get cool lights and cool speakers and consoles and all that. But it really is I think you can take a lot of principles of the way that we put these tours together and process them and build them and take them back home, and almost treat it the same kind of way. How do we engage people? how do we do that in a way that represents your ministry, just like how we're thinking about that ministry, like, and kind of getting out of the routine of like, I just come in, I turn everything on, we do the service, and then we leave, and kind of figuring out how to shake the box a little bit and come up with some creative ways to do what you're doing, but differently.
What does that look like then? Because it sounds like, and this is really encouraging to hear, it's not that Elevation is going out and wowing people with spectacle or with millions of dollars of gear. It's really that they are taking people out of their typical environment. They're changing it up. And that one simple principle is enough to really create a new experience and make us engage with God in a way that we wouldn't on Sunday morning. So then on a practical standpoint, would you encourage church techs to, maybe say yes to that outside service, or would change it up a lot inside? Or, what's...
Yeah, I think it's finding ways to like stay inspired and to support the ministry. Like all of us are there to support the ministry that's happening and the people that are kind of leading the charge in the ministry. And so, I've been in those situations where you get asked something ridiculous and you just want to say, no, that's way too much work, or that's too hard, or we don't have the resources or people to do it. And maybe look at those situations a little differently and say, okay, how can this person clearly has a vision for this event or service or whatever. How do we best serve them, even though we don't have resources or whatever the reason may be? Because I think at the end of the day, that creates a camaraderie between all the departments and the leadership team and the production team and the music team. And it kind of births this really beautiful, like, hey, we're just doing this together and we're doing this for the Lord, and we're trying to glorify that word and that ministry and that the things that he's like blessed us with. And even though it may not be perfect and it may not be like the coolest thing ever, I think the win in my eyes is getting to do that like together and feeling good and feeling like you can high five everybody at the end and be like, hey, we did this and the best we could, and it was awesome.
Do you think there's kind of a way that churches can look at, so when you're doing Elevation, you go out on a specific tour and there are tour rehearsals and there's a set design and there's a theme and there's set lists that you're going to do for this run of the tour. And then, 18 months later, it's a different set design, different tour. Can churches almost take that model and maybe, in a sermon series, say like, okay, like we're doing a different set design, we're doing a sermon series and kind of a theme, like how can we take our production and create like a unique moment for this series or this? They can almost look at it as a specific tour.
Yeah. I mean, we sit down and we talk about kind of the vision and the goals and what we want to communicate to people that see this and experience it. And that goes from, like you said, set design to set list to, even the way we do our like playback, we're not locked to anything. And so we're flexible and we're able to like prepare in a way to be flexible, but still try and execute like the best that we could. And so again, that kind of goes back to the team thing of like, hey, get all the people in the room and just talk about cool, crazy ideas and be open to it, and then leave and sit down and talk about the realities too, because that's an important piece of, that's kind of my job, is that we dream and then I can kind of help say, okay, here's what's actually possible. Here's a way we could do this differently. And I think that's important for tech directors to understand that role of, go dream and let people dream. But at the end of the day, it has to happen some way, and there's resources involved with that. And so, kind of being on board to dream with them and then go take a walk and then figure out, okay, how do I make this actually happen?
Yeah, those couple phases have become very distinct to us, of like, there's the dream phase and be the yes guy in that phase, and let's just figure out how we can do it. And then after the dream phase is over, it's like, okay, what's really possible?
Yeah.
Communicating that back and executing on that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a difficult process, but I think the more texts that we've talked about, especially the older ones that have said they've gotten that down, it's like, oh, sounds like life is great then because you're not fighting the dream phase. You're getting to
Yeah.
enjoy the execution phase. Speaking of enjoying things, though, we would like to hear a disaster story, something you probably didn't enjoy. This is a moment of, I mean, you've
The doo-doo hit the fan.
yeah. This is when you were gripping your tattoos very, very tightly. Like something just went totally wrong in a live production moment.
So my wife and I were talking about this morning too. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Enneagram.
Oh, we love the Enneagram. What number are you?
I'm a tried and true 3. I'm a very, very big image-based 3.
That's why you're so pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes
there
sense.
And we were talking about this, and we laughed because I live my whole life. Every decision I make is based on, will I be embarrassed by this? So if I make this decision, is there a chance that I would be embarrassed?
And yet you came on this podcast.
With two people who that gear does not exist in us.
So we were talking about disaster stories, and I don't really have any. And that's not to say that I'm perfect. It's just I'm so mortified of ever being embarrassed that when we talk about like an audio console, we have 20 backups, obviously so that nothing goes wrong and goes down, but also so that I don't have a chance of ever being embarrassed. So we were laughing about like, she was like, well, what about like things that have happened on tour, like with other departments or other people on your team? And I was like, we all kind of function like this. Like we're all scared of something bad happening. So I don't know that I have a really fun disaster story because it would devastate me. Like,
Well, it's a good thing we invited your wife to come on the show and actually call you out in front of everyone.
Hey, listen, this is good. This means the outline is working. I send those ahead of time so people can kind of think about a response.
See, Blake works that way where he has backups of everything just in case something might go wrong, but somehow he still manages to embarrass himself every single day.
I guess, okay, I do have one. This is more of like a very personal embarrassing story, and it actually has to do with Lee Fields.
I feel like we're on
So-
Oprah right now. We're getting the celebrity to like
Nothing went
open up.
wrong. So I'll preface this, but I did not have a good mix night. And it just so happened to be at the church that Lee used to be at in Sacramento. And it just so happened that all of my really dear friends from that church were there in the room. And it just so happened that Lee was standing 1 foot behind my right shoulder. And I sat through this 90-minute set thinking, this might be the worst mix I've ever heard. And this person who's one of my like dearest friends and mentors and is standing right here. And I had just like the most, I like wanted to cry the whole time because I was like, this is so bad and I don't know what to do about it. And it just was such a like humbling, like, we were leading up to that night and I was so pumped. I was like, everyone's going to come and be so impressed. And like, I'm going to show off all these things that I've learned. And we started and I thought, no one's going to be impressed by this. And it was just like I walked away and I had to go walk around the parking lot for a minute because I just was so devastated that it wasn't awesome.
Did you ever think maybe Lee sabotaged it just to keep you humble?
I don't know. He kept saying like, it sounds good. It's not that bad.
Maybe
And I
he
kept-
wired the array out of phase.
Yeah, it was their PA, so maybe.
That does sound like what a mentor in like a movie would do.
Yeah,
on
like
make
let's see how
seriously.
good he is.
Having that kind of anchor in your mind is honestly important, I think, to not,
Yeah, it really kicked me because I came in feeling like confident and it wasn't a good night and I just had to swallow that pill and just
What do you
take it.
attribute that to? Did you just think,
I think I was in my head. I think I didn't love the PA. It wasn't our PA, which, we can make excuses all day long, but I just didn't. I was not feeling it. I was not vibing it. It was no one's fault.
what was your process like recovering from that painful memory, especially as a 3 and all your friends are there? I mean, it sounds like your personal nightmare.
It definitely was like a very like depressing night on the, we went on the bus and I just was thinking through everything I could have done different. And, we got to the next day and obviously I didn't use that file from that night. And I just spent a little extra time crossing my T's and dotting my I's. It's honestly recovery of like, that was bad. It just was what it was. And so now I have to like pick myself back up and keep going because we're not done.
Well, that does sound a lot like, NFL teams I've heard have a good philosophy on when they lose on Sunday, you're allowed to just go home and be sad that night.
Yeah.
And then the next day,
Yeah.
you're also expected to brush it off. And I
Yeah.
bet on tour that mental shift has to happen.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being vulnerable, man. I think Toby, though, is about to surprise you with something even more difficult than that night.
Are we playing Who Said It?
Let's play Who Said It. Cory, this is not a staple segment. This is kind of a surprise booby trap where we will tell you some quotes on that people have said about you, and you'll try to guess who said it.
Oh gosh, I'm very bad at. I was listening to you guys do this guess the person game, and I was thinking, thank God I'm not guessing because I'm so bad at this.
Were you listening
to the show.
Were you listening to Dylan or Lee's episode?
Oh no, just now, like on this one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
because this is our third time doing it. So Toby, take it away.
I don't have it in my notes.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Okay,
so
well,
you're gonna have to read
I
it.
guess I'll do it then. So, the first one is, why is the lighting? And I can either give you all three, and then you guess, or we can do one at a time. What would you
give 'em all
prefer?
three.
Are they
and then you
different people?
Yes.
Okay,
All right. Number one, why is the lighting kid playing guitar on stage now?
that's Lee Fields.
That's his. All right, we got his guess there. Number
Yeah.
two, he's got a bit too Hollywood. Look how pretty his face is.
Jay Desai.
Oh my gosh, that was immediate. And then, don't feel weird about this. It's normal Cory Edwards behavior.
Oh,
So we're already locking in those other two. Like that first one, you're pretty confident Lee, and then Jay Desai on the second one.
honestly, that third one sounds like Lee too.
Okay, is this your final answers?
I think that's Lee says those two things a lot to me. And Jay's the only person on this planet that calls me pretty. So
Well, you hadn't met us yet.
For now,
Well, Cory, I got to say, screw you for being so talented. We've never done two quotes from the same person. And I was like, Lee gave us two. And I was like, oh, we're going to throw him here.
oh my gosh.
He got it.
and I'd like to throw somebody else under the bus. We tried to get a quote from Adam Taylor, and he's like, on it, and then just
Yeah.
never followed through.
Oh
So,
man.
So
I love Adam.
That middle one, he's gone a bit too Hollywood. Look how pretty his face is. That was the two of us.
we actually polled the entire production community, and that was the most common response. So
That's amazing.
But I absolutely love how you immediately said it was Jay Desai. I mean, that was hysterical.
Yeah, Jay in the last year has really driven home that thing, which is probably why it's become popular in the production industry because
we're totally making that up, by the way.
That's fun.
I think Jay's just jealous of his face.
Maybe I love Jay, so it's okay. It's like a compliment coming from him.
He's kind of like John Madden in the sense that like he's just there for color commentary.
Yeah.
But people are like, did he actually say that?
Oh, I think Jay's hysterical.
Oh, he
kind of
can-
look
yeah.
up to him really as a
Yeah,
podcaster.
Seriously.
Okay, so our last segment is the tech takeaway. This is essentially your unique, random, out there piece of advice that you'd give to all church techs that this will make their Sunday mornings better or easier, or it could be the prep for Sunday morning, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
I say weird or odd because everyone has their best practices, their checklists. I mean, techs are checklist people.
Yeah.
What's the random thing that's made it to your checklist?
I think my answer to that would be to go up on stage and say hi to every single person every band member, every worship leader, every hospitality person. There's something special that happens when you're not just the guy behind the console yelling at all the band, and when you can have a relationship with those people, it goes miles for your work and what you're doing, but it also is you build this relationship and community around the people that you're doing this with. And I think as an engineer, I never ever don't go meet every single person on the band. And I am grateful that I can say like the Elevation Band guys and I have a really great relationship, but that's been years of we hang out and we talk life. And so when I am the guy behind the console and I need to tweak a bass tone, like it's this we have this like already established relationship. And we just get to work together to make what we're doing the best it possibly can. And I think there's something that happens when you know that person and they know you. And that's a really important, that's step one. on my checklist always with any band that I work with, any church, is you have to go know the people that you're doing this with, because you need them on your team just as much as they need you on your team.
I think that might be my new favorite tech takeaway. Like, it seems so simple, but like you just forget about it. You get behind the board and you get in your head, and then you forget that like there's real people up there. Like, they have their own problems, especially on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
And Blake, I was thinking the easiest way to engage with your worship band, your musicians, is if you guys bond over getting tattoos together.
Oh, yes. I mean, how many tattoos could you get at one time? It is honestly one of the biggest shockers of doing this podcast to me, is like how much of the tech like responses have been communications focused.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been at least 50% tech communication, if not like 70% communication, 30% tech. But that's a really good summation and practical application of that, though.
Yeah. It's easy to push buttons and knobs, but it's hard to go and be friends and
Find those knobs to push on other people.
Right. Yeah. And before you go push those knobs on other people, you have to know them. And so it's not coming out of this left field of like, oh, there's this angry guy behind a console yelling at me about my tone. And that would be my thing.
Man, that's great. Well, if someone else wanted to reach out to you to get some more wisdom from you, where could they find you?
Honestly, Instagram's the best way. I think there's a button that can email me on there. My website's linked on there. I don't check Facebook ever, so that's kind of the best place to get a hold of me.
That's why me and Toby make a good tag team. If I can't get him on Instagram, then he typically gets him on Facebook.
I'm always on the Facebook.
Yeah, I'll post something on my personal Facebook, and Toby will have a comment within like 3 seconds, and I'm like, praise God for Toby, because the algorithm, that's what I need.
Yeah.
I only follow like 3 people, so.
Oh my gosh,
See,
I'm in the trinity.
I haven't done that. I follow everyone that I'm friends with, so it's just loaded with things that...
Wait, is this a function I don't know about? Like, what do you mean follow? Like, does
you
it
can
give
be friends, but you can not necessarily follow them, so you don't see
Oh,
all of their...
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
if we're admitting things, I do this.
That's why you never see when I fire you on Facebook.
LOL. I do unfollow a lot of people, like in that sense, to stay like amicable friends wise, but I don't need to see the 60th meme that you've posted about your dog.
Or your cat.
Or honestly, the moment someone has kids, I'm done. I unfollow because it's only going to be kid photos.
Yeah, everyone laughed when we had Eden, and they were like, does he even work anymore? Because all he posts is pictures of his kid. And I was like, yeah, I do work still, but this is more.
She's always sitting on a console, but
She is always like, yeah, she comes in the studio and wants to sit on my lap and just goes to town on the keyboard and mouse and the faders and pushes things. And
You said she's 1?
she's 1, and yeah, she turned 1 a week or 2 ago.
Look, you got like 7 more years then before she becomes the next legend, because we talked to someone on the pod that, I mean, I want to say she was like 10, Alexa Ross, when she started mixing with her
Yeah.
dad. So you might not be too far off.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't come into production, but I'm just kidding.
And on that note, so for everyone else who's still in production, Cory, thanks for coming on the podcast,
Yeah,
man.
thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening. And hey, congratulations on surviving Sunday. If you happen to make it through next Sunday as well, join us again for your weekly Tech Breather.
you know, Blake, I think it would be great if we got everyone listening to post a photo of their tattoo.
Oh, yes, their tattoo, and say what inspired that tattoo. And then also maybe say how Church Gears podcast inspired them today.
Or tattoo it on themselves.
Oh my gosh, if you tattoo the Church Gear podcast logo on your body, what do we do? $1,000 gift card?
Yes, $1,000 gift card, but it has to be a real tattoo, a permanent tattoo.
Yes.